Hello, hello everybody. My name is Libby.
And I'm Aya.
And this is the Dancing Devis Podcast.
Thanks for being here. Today I'm interviewing one of my best friends, Libby, about her 8-month-long backpacking trip around the world.
Yes, I'm really excited to dive into this episode and to talk about my travels and all the adventures and places I went and different travel tips that might come up and just different experiences that I had. So I'm really excited.
Yes, I'm so excited. This was one of the first episodes that I thought about filming just because your trip sounded so epic, and I'm still hearing new stories about it all the time that she hasn't mentioned somehow, just because 8 months straight of intense traveling, like go every single day, packs in a lot of different experiences. And so she went to so many different countries and cities and saw so many different amazing sacred sites and spiritual sites. It's really incredible. So yeah, we can start at the beginning.
Yes. And I just want to say, I haven't shared too much from this trip and from my experiences because it's hard for me in the moment to think, oh my goodness, I need to take a picture of this or I need to take a video of this, which I have tons of pictures, but you just forget and time goes on. But yeah,
you're so present.
And you're so present in the moment, which was so cool. I loved being so present and so with the places that I was in. And yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
So, right before this trip started, Libby had been living with me in Austin for about a year after van life, which is a whole different story. But the entire time that we were living together in Austin, her mind was racing about getting out and going on a really big trip, and you actualized that vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like ever since I graduated from college, almost 3 years ago, I have been just hit with the travel bug and just on and off traveling. Since graduating, I was in Hawaii for a couple of months, right after graduating, and then I did van life in Oregon with my partner at the time, and then after that moved to Austin very last minute, on a whim, and lived with Aya, which was amazing. And then that whole time I just couldn't get the travel bug out of my head. Mm-hmm. And we were both really excited about travels and both talking about it so much. It's such a huge part of both of our lives. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so Aya, being the most amazing friend and roommate ever, was so supportive of my dreams. And whenever I told her I want to go to Costa Rica for a couple months in May, because a little more backstory, I am a teacher. I got my degree in education, and I was a preschool teacher for the whole school year that I was living in Austin. And at the end of the school year, which was end of May, beginning of June, I knew that was my timeline of I want to get out of here, I want to go travel. And I had no idea how long that was going to be or where it was going to take me. But I just knew right off the bat, I want to go somewhere tropical. That's mm-hmm. what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Costa Rica. I wanted to immerse myself in the jungle. And so I had plans to do work trade there, and that,
snowballed.
That snowballed.
As it does. Yes. Once you're out there.
I know, because once you're out there and you get into flow, you just don't want to stop. It is so addicting, and there's more opportunities that open up for you that allow you to keep moving and keep flowing. And so I ended up calling Aya one day and saying, I don't think I'm going to be coming back anytime soon. And she literally packed up my entire room for me and all of my stuff and organized it into all these cute little boxes. And it was so sweet. And I kept going for 8 months. I was out in the world, mainly backpacking. Backpacking for 5 of those months, living in hostels and moving around you know, every day, if not every couple of days, to different countries. And my trip ended with a 3-month-long voyage in French Polynesia, where I was living on a sailboat as a live-in nanny and teacher for this really wonderful family that has 2 twin girls. And that was kind of the end marker of my trip, but we'll get more into that.
Yeah, let's get started.
Yes.
So you were in Costa Rica for 1 or 2 months.
Yes.
And then you called me and you told me, I'm not coming back. Can you pack up my stuff? And then you went and walked across the border into Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I was in Ometepe for about 8 days. So Ometepe is an island in the middle of this huge lake in Nicaragua. And the island is made out of 2 volcanoes. So it's kind of the infinity island, basically. And it's such a cool spot. I mean, being on an island in the middle of a lake with these 2 giant volcanoes and the whole island, I mean, you can get around it by a moped in a day, less than a day.
I love Ometepe so much. I think you actually went there maybe because I had recommended it to you.
Yeah.
But I went there a couple years back and fell in love with it because it's so lush and tropical, and fruit is just growing everywhere.
Mangoes falling from the trees.
Literally the sides of the road are lined with mangoes all over the ground, and like you can pick star fruits and passion fruits and pineapples and jackfruits, like just so much everywhere. But I had such an incredible time there. I felt really bad because Libby got really sick.
I got so sick whenever I was there. Another really cool thing in Ometepe is the most amazing cacao farm and like cacao. So some of our friends, I was actually there for a wedding, and it was on this beautiful cacao farm, and I really wanted to go, and I'm so glad I got to go. I had the best cacao ever. It was amazing. But I did end up getting sick pretty much day 2 of being there. It was the most sick I've been in years and years and years, and it made me so weak. I was like just fighting for my life in this hostel, and
with freaking like outhouses.
Yes, outhouses.
Like there's no like actual flushing toilets there.
I had to like
or
just
composting
sleep.
toilets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Lots of composting toilets. Lots of. Yeah, it was very eye-opening with the infrastructure in Nicaragua, and just it's really, really a beautiful place, and it's awesome like to see this different way of life. But it was definitely like huge adjustments and very eye-opening for me, because I think that the reason I got sick was we were staying in this hostel with this outdoor kitchen that just looked super sus. And we had bought eggs from the farmer's market, and I had made some eggs and rice and was using the kitchen equipment that was out there. And I mean, you never can just pinpoint what gives you food poisoning or what gives you that bug, but something did it to me. And yeah, I was so weak, and we were actually planning to, after our time in Ometepe, go back to Costa Rica and spend another 2 weeks there. But I was so unbelievably sick and weak, and we were just over it at that point. And so I had to kind of accept, like, I need to go home, I think, and just reset. So I ended up going home
for a couple weeks.
But I had already planned to go to Colombia for this moon dance, because so in the last episode, Grace and Aya were talking about their time staying at a medicine retreat center, yoga retreat center, and I ended up staying at that same place a year later, and connected with some really awesome people there, and 2 women especially we all just like really hit it off, and they were planning to go to this moon dance in Colombia, which a moon dance is really beautiful, sacred ritual in which women come together and dance under the moon for 4 nights, and it's beautiful. We're gathered in prayer and we're chanting and we're doing sweat lodges, also known as temescals, twice a day, every single day, and fasting a lot of the time in this time. And it's just really potent, beautiful energy. And I had already had that trip planned to go. And even though I came back home because I was sick, I was like, I really feel like I need this ceremony and I need to go out there and do this and see it through. And so I'm so glad that I did, because I feel like if I had just stayed back and not done that, it wouldn't have given me the momentum to continue on after. And so yeah, I'm very grateful that I ended up doing Colombia.
Oh my gosh, wait, but you should tell us like some more stories about the moon dance.
Okay,
and, like,
yes.
some of your experiences there, because it's such a beautiful journey and it's something I really want to do. And a lot of people probably don't know
what a moon dance is.
Yeah,
so I was super grateful to connect with this moon dance in particular. So there are dances that happen all over the world. And this one was in this beautiful piece of land. And me and then one of the other girls that I had connected with were the only 2 people that spoke English, really. Everybody else was fluent in Spanish. I mean, I take that back. There were people who could speak English that were there, but for the most part, the entire retreat, and everyone's first language is Spanish, so all of the lessons are in Spanish and all of the messages are in Spanish. And I had spent a couple months in Costa Rica prior to that and was kind of learning Spanish, so I was able to pick up on bits and pieces, but definitely nowhere near fluent. And I was so grateful for my friend who was there, who spoke Spanish and could translate a lot of the lessons for me. But even just being there and being present in the space, I was intuitively picking up on the energy. And so basically, it's every July full moon, this group gathers for the moon dance, for this specific dance in Colombia. And it's 4 days and 4 nights of dancing, and basically you're not really sleeping in this time because there are sweat lodges during the day that you're doing, and you're also gathering in prayer and doing little workshops, and that's kind of like activity that's happening in the day. And we were also sewing things onto our outfits because, we were wearing all white. You had a very specific thing you were supposed to wear, and we had to make flower crowns for ourselves and little tobacco pouches that were honoring each of the 4 directions. So that's happening during the day. And then in the evening is when we dance. And they split all of the women up into 4 different groups, and each of the groups are dancing for a specific direction, north, south, east, west, and my direction was the west that I was dancing for. And this was really important for me, and I think, what direction that you dance for, you don't really choose that. It's kind of chosen for you by the facilitators of the event. And this one felt really fitting for where I was at in that moment, because the west represents the water, the color is red, it represents the womb space and the feminine. And at this time, I was really trying to figure out who I was and trying to find myself. And there was a lot of change and transformation happening in my life, and it felt like I was just rolling with the changes. And one of the reasons I embarked on this trip in the first place is because I am a rooted girl. I am grounded in my environment. I put a lot of love into my home. Mm-hmm. I love to make a home, and I love to have my consistent schedule. And these are all things that I grew up with, that if anything was out of order, I would feel so much anxiety. And change was a huge root of my anxiety growing up, and even into my adulthood, and now I feel like I have really kind of broken that pattern to where I accept change and I welcome change. And that was a huge, part of my process and something I had to learn. And so Dancing for the West was really important for me in that way. But we're dancing for the moon all night, and there are these very specific patterns in which we're moving around this circle, and it's a medicine wheel, like a huge wheel that we're dancing in. And there's different people who are in different positions. Like, we have our dance leaders, and then we have the women who are, with their copolera, like cleansing everybody, and the drummers in the middle, and we're chanting, and we have our shakers, and it's just a really exciting time. And I remember being in that moment like, oh my God, I've never experienced anything like this. And it felt like I was dancing with the sacred witches. Like, this felt like, it felt real, and it felt almost, primal and ancient, and like, this is what people were burned at the stake for,
And it's so beautiful.
Years ago. But it's so beautiful to have women gather in this way and celebrate and dance and give our energy to the moon. And we were creating such magic in that time. There was no medicine besides cacao and tobacco, and just us showing up kind of delirious because we're not sleeping, and you're eating very little food to just kind of keep your your body cleansed and clear, and so that the messages and the visuals can come through.
Wasn't there like a lake that you would go to and you found something there at like an altar? There was like an altar you would put things.
Oh yes, there was a stream.
Okay, yeah.
There was a stream or a creek. And yeah, there was a beautiful altar that was there, and I found a bracelet. I exchanged a crystal for a bracelet, and whenever I was there, I was seeing the beautiful blue Morphe butterflies.
Oh.
Yeah, so many beautiful butterflies and little bugs, and I'm very connected to the fairies, and especially whenever I'm like in that kind of state of magic and just really immersed in nature, I feel very connected to them. And so this was a place where I was feeling their presence around me, and I was just praying by the river and singing a lot. And this was an opportunity where this whole trip really opened up my throat chakra and my voice. I was singing so much, like from my heart, and singing beautiful medicine songs unlike anything I'd ever done before. And also, we weren't allowed to bathe in this time, so it was like we were just out there, because you didn't want to have any oil or any soaps or anything that was, gonna be a distracting smell, or you just wanted to fully immerse yourself into this experience. But yeah, there was that little creek, and it was very magical, and little altar with all these little crystals and jewels and little jewelry that people had left, and so beautiful.
And then, so after you had that beautiful spiritual journey, you came back for 2 weeks.
Yes. So after the moon dance, I came back for another 2 weeks. I think this one was 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I was able to reconnect with family and kind of realign myself. And after that experience, it really filled my cup up. And me and my travel partner, we were getting ready to embark on this 2-month-long backpacking trip that was
epic.
10 countries in 2 months, just a big backpack on our back, a smaller backpack, a day pack on the front, and then a little crossbody. And that is what we had. And we were all over the place, from the deserts to the snowy mountains, literally every type of landscape you can imagine in between. It felt like we were seeing all of this. We were seeing ruins and churches and art museums and going on tours and paragliding, and oh, it was amazing.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I'll just start by saying the countries that I went to in that time, I guess. Or should we go one by one?
Go one by one.
Okay, let's go one by one.
Yeah.
So
started in Jordan.
So we started in Jordan, and this was what really kicked off the trip. And we ended up staying on a Bedouin camp in the Wadi Rum desert. So the Bedouin people are the people of the desert. They're a nomadic people, and they are so incredibly kind and so hospitable, and it was amazing. So we found this Bedouin camp on Workaway, and we stayed for 10 days in the Wadi Rum desert, and they were so kind. The people who ran this camp, they were, feeding us every single meal, and we were, drinking hot tea in the middle of the desert. They always had tea and food, and taking us on these tours, and so magical and mystical, like 10 days straight in the desert.
Did they speak English?
They did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they spoke English and Arabic, but they spoke really good English, and I think this is in part because of the business that they're in. I mean, they are kind of in a more touristy business with opening up their camps to people from all over the world. But it was so cool because, I truly was meeting people from all over the world coming to this camp. People from Japan, Australia, Germany, you name it. Turkey, people all over the world. Really, we were the only Americans that were there that I met.
And for anyone who's interested in these types of experiences, we really recommend looking into World Packers and Workaway, because you can find a lot of really cool opportunities like this where you only have to pay a very small fee usually, like $10 a day or something, and you just help out for a couple hours a day with the place that you're staying, and then you get to live there and be fed for free. So
So some of them cost money. Some of the places that do work exchange will cost money, but this one was actually free. You can find some. Whoa. And you can set your settings to kind of fit whatever you're looking for. So the membership to these things is an annual fee, and I think that ranges from $45 to maybe $75 at most.
Yeah.
But I want to say that it's $50 a year for these different websites.
To be able to message the people and...
Right. Yeah. And so this is a way that I travel affordably, is I do try to find different work exchanges. And this is a way that you can live for free, in exchange for doing a couple hours of work every single day. In this case, they were literally so kind, and they did not ask us to do any work. And we even got to the point where we were we want to, do something in exchange for us being here. And they just, I don't know, they never wanted us to work. It was
they didn't really ask you to do anything.
They didn't ask us to do anything. But it's so part of their culture. They were so kind that they wanted us to have a good time, and they, they opened their homes up to anyone. And so yeah, it was incredible. And 10 nights, wow. And being completely unplugged. I had no service, no Wi-Fi, no anything for 10 straight days. And the sunsets were the most incredible thing you'd ever seen. The stars were amazing. I was sleeping under the stars.
You were in a tent?
I was in a tent. And I made sure one night I pulled my mattress way out into the middle of the sand and just slept under the stars, and you could see the Milky Way, like the most beautiful stars you'd ever see, like every single one.
I thought you had said at one point you like slept in the same room as like some of the, like y'all were all like sleeping in one room together.
This wasn't in this place.
That was a different place.
This was a different place. In this one, we had our own private tent that had 2 beds. And so that's where we were sleeping. And then a lot of the times during the day, we were just trying to like hide from the heat and hide from the sun. So they had these really big, beautiful, open rooms with windows and chairs and tea. And they had a couple different board games that you could play, but mainly we were just reading or journaling or just napping or sitting in these rooms. And also we would, go out and go hike to different cave structures that had a lot of shade where we could kind of sit there and hang out during the day. But we did have private rooms in this place, and they were really cool too, like really cool tents. Wadi Rum Desert is where they filmed Star Wars, so it's very otherworldly here. And yeah, it was so beautiful. So that was my time in Jordan.
Oh, and you went to Petra.
We did go to Petra. How could I almost skip that? We went to Petra, and that was, oh my goodness, so incredible. So Petra is this amazing, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it's carved. It's a huge tomb, essentially, but the most intricate structure you've ever seen in your life that's just carved out of the sides of these cliffs. So, I mean, that was amazing. We were seeing like all sorts of hieroglyphs, and then not even just Petra, but I mean, all of these carved structures throughout I guess it's kind of like you're in the middle of this, I guess, a valley, and as you're going through these kind of carvings throughout
like
structures. Yeah, kind of like canyons. They carve these beautiful, I just don't know how they do it or how they did it in that time. It's absolutely amazing.
I didn't realize it was a tomb. Do they say whose tomb it is?
It was some king that was really important to them, but that's just how these places are. I mean, the most amazing structures, like the pyramids, and which I'll get into the pyramids later too, because the next place we went to was Egypt. But yeah, a lot of these places are preparing these like immaculate structures in honor of their dead. And it's typically the dead that are kings or, really high figures.
Or so they say, but there could be other uses for the pyramids.
Probably. Yeah, we don't know for sure.
But you didn't go straight to Egypt, right?
We went to Israel. So from Jordan, after we did Petra, and, we were also in Aqaba and Amman. Then we went up to Israel, and we were in Israel for 3 days, and this was in August of last year, which I want to say was like 2 months before the war began.
Really divine timing.
It was really divine timing, and I was so grateful that I was able to go, because it truly is such a beautiful place with such a rich history. But even whenever we were in these countries, in Jordan, Israel, and Egypt, especially Egypt, because from Egypt, that's when we flew to our next destination, which was Greece, there were all of these families that were there with all of their stuff. Like, you could tell, like, all of these families were moving or just up and leaving, and it was really interesting at the time to see full families with like huge carts of obviously their belongings, and the airports were kind of crazy at that time too. So
Interesting.
I feel like the people over there were feeling the tension and trying to get out of there in the most efficient way. And even when we went to Israel, whenever we did our tour of Jerusalem, our tour guide was diving into a lot of the, shaky politics of it all, and how it really, there is a lot of unsettled, and it's been that way for centuries. And so, yeah, that it was really, really beautiful to go, and we got to see Jerusalem and the Western Wall, and we also went to the Dead Sea. Those were like our three big kind of iconic things that we did.
And you went to Jesus's tomb, allegedly Jesus's tomb.
Yeah, we went to Jesus's tomb, and I got to bless one of my necklaces that I was wearing on his actual tombstone where they laid his body after he was crucified. And on this tomb, I mean, there's beautiful roses and holy water, and you can put your hands on his tomb. And I put my hands on on that tombstone, or the stone in which they laid his body. I put my hands there and prayed, and said a prayer, put my prayer out there. And yeah, we saw the tomb where they put his body, where he rose 3 days later. We went through that whole story, and yeah, that church was so beautiful. I mean, we saw on this trip a lot of beautiful, iconic artwork depicting Jesus Christ and his whole story. Like, it felt like religion, because this was a very spiritual trip for me. And just seeing like religious history and seeing all of these different cultures kind of like meshing together in this way of like connecting with spirit was so eye-opening, because I mean, this is stuff that people fight wars over. And I mean, this is so deeply ingrained in our human nature, is to have this tie to spirit and this relationship to spirit. And it can get so political so quickly with all of the different conflicting viewpoints on what is right. And so we really were seeing that reflection, and even just the story of Jesus Christ and his crucifixion and all of that. It was really interesting to see him depicted in this way, like this ascended master. And,
I have heard that there's two different tombs in Jerusalem that claim to be Jesus's tomb. And we don't know which one is, or if either of them are. Did you hear about that? Did you hear about a second tomb that claims?
No, I didn't. I only was hearing about that one.
Maybe that's like the main one.
Yeah, but we did see
that people believe.
The rock where this, I mean, don't get me talking about I don't know the characters' names of the Bible, but it was someone who had come to this rock and then was brought to heaven.
Oh.
I don't remember who that character is, but
interesting.
Yeah, and then we got to go to the Western Wall, and there was a men's side of the wall and a women's side of the wall, and so many people. I mean, first you cleanse your hands with the holy water, and you go in, you can put your hands on the wall, you say a prayer, you can write a prayer to put it into the wall, and just seeing all different people from all different religions coming to this wall.
Is that the wall that they believe, they believe that the Son of God wasn't Jesus and hasn't actually returned, but he is going to come back through that wall?
I don't know.
I feel like I faintly remember that from childhood school Christian school teachings.
Yeah.
But I think that might be what it's about. Like, maybe that's why you go pray there, because like in Judaism, I don't think they believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They're like still waiting.
Oh yeah, they're still waiting for him to return.
I think that there's like a prophecy that whenever he returns, he's gonna like come through that wall, like that gate, like that has never been opened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't really know what I'm talking about.
No, I mean, that sounds like it could be. I wish I remembered like more.
I think maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that you went to like pray at that wall.
And there were all sorts of people, because in Jerusalem, there's like this crossroads where there's like a Jewish street and then like a Muslim street and like a Christian street, and like all of these like different streets kind of intersect with one another.
It's cool. It's like the heart of all three of the Abrahamic religions.
It is. It really is the heart of it all, and they're all there. And I think that's why there is so much unrest is because, I mean, this is like the holy, sacred land that it's the promised
everyone
land.
Wants.
And everyone wants it. And so it runs really, really deep. But yeah, that was really beautiful.
And you went to the Dead Sea.
And then we went to the Dead Sea, which was amazing. It literally is the Dead Sea. It's so unbelievably salty. Of course, I had to like try a little bit.
You did? Was it like, how did it taste?
Oh, it's like so salty that, I mean,
you have to chug some water after?
You would have to chug some, literally. Like, it was like almost sour, like how salty it is. And yeah, so that was really cool. And then you go in, and then as soon as you can't walk anymore, boop, you're floating. And it really does raise you up. Like, you could not go down if you tried. You don't want to put your head really under the water because it's so intense.
Sounds like it burn your eyes.
And it's so hot there, so unbelievably hot. And then the water is warm where you're at. So it's like you're taking this bath in this like really salty water. But people are actually prescribed, if you have like skin cancer or skin disease or something like that, you will be prescribed to go to the Dead Sea to bathe in its waters because it's so good for your skin health. And the mud is so rich in minerals and just all sorts of goodness.
You rubbed it all over your
I rubbed it. Of course I did. I was seeing so many funny sights of people down there. People shoving the mud into plastic water bottles, like trying to take it back with them.
Are you allowed to like take it with you?
I mean, people were doing it. I don't know. I mean, I don't really... To me, it's like, I don't see the point in that because it's just going to dry up and it's just kind of... But... Anyways, we rubbed it all over our bodies. I put it like everywhere on my face, and it felt really, really good to do that. And we were there for just a short amount of time. So we were there for like 3 days total. And then from there, we went to Egypt, which was like a whole other type of history and religion and like spirituality in its own way, because that was where, I mean, the origin stories I feel like were developed, you know, like the gods and oh my gosh, this was such a cool, probably, well, I don't want to say it was my favorite part of the trip, but it was definitely up there on like one of the coolest places I've ever been. And actually, before I went, because we only spent 4 days in Egypt, and we kind of went right into the heart of it all. We went to Cairo, and we immediately went to the pyramids, and then we went to the Valley of the Gods, which is where King Tut's tomb is, and we got to go into all of these ancient tombs of the most amazing, incredible, intricate hieroglyphs you've ever seen in your life, and the most beautiful artifacts. And I mean, it just runs so deep. Like, I totally understand why people are obsessed with Egypt, because it's just so freaking cool. Like, it's amazing. It was so cool. But whenever I was at the moon dance, I was telling some of the women that I met there that I, was planning to go on this trip and we were gonna, go to Egypt. And they were like, oh, really? What part? And I was like, Cairo. And they were like, oh, how long? And I was like, 4 days. And they were like, you need to either extend your time there or just cancel that part of your trip completely.
And that really, you took it.
I was like,
you were really like thrown off by that.
I was so thrown off because it was 2 women particularly who had been to Egypt before who were so adamant about this, because they were like, you are about to enter the third eye chakra of the world. And if you go straight into that, you are going to drain your battery. Like, both of them were telling me of the craziest stuff that was happening to people that they knew. Like, someone, was in Egypt and was in the tomb and cracked a tooth, or just crazy stuff like that. But they suggested that if you do Egypt, you want to start at the bottom of the Nile and like work your way up and really like work your way up to the pyramids, because you kind of are starting at the root
through the chakras,
and you're moving exactly, instead of just blasting off like right. And I will say, when we got to the pyramids in Egypt, it was also a full moon and the energy was incredibly magnetized at that time. Like, crazy energy was happening.
Or maybe it's always like that.
It was always like that, yeah, for sure. But we were extremely emotional, and just so much was coming up to the surface, and oh my gosh. You could feel the energy. And also the energy kind of surrounding the pyramids. There's a lot of touristy activity happening. That specific area, because it's really close by to the Sphinx as well. We got to go see the Sphinx. So we kind of were shown this double-edged sword of like, this is such a amazing, beautiful, wonderful part of our human history and, our origins. And on the same end, it's like people are capitalizing off of it and kind of turning it into this like corny, touristy type of vibe. So it was interesting to see that duality of it, but it was still incredible and amazing, and I really, really, really want to go back.
You should take me.
I know, we're gonna go one of these days.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to see the hieroglyphs.
I know.
And just like study them and try and understand what they were saying.
You would love it.
Yeah.
You would love it.
And I love the art.
I know, the art and the history and the stories, and I mean, it's just amazing.
Energetically dense.
Energetically dense. And when you're in that energy, I mean, there's just like a loss of words of it all. You're just trying to absorb as much of it as possible. And there truly are so many artifacts. We got to go into King Tut's tomb, which was amazing, and see all of his cool artifacts and so many. Yeah, we went into his tomb, and we got to see mummies, and we went into this really awesome museum in Cairo that had a lot of the artifacts like out on display and had descriptions of all of them. So we were just deep diving in there for hours, absorbing as much as we could, and it was so cool. So amazing. I really connected with goddess Isis in that time, and I actually got a little, is kind of a souvenir, and it was made from the stone alabaster stone, which they used a lot in their different carvings and stuff, and it has her with her wings out, and I love her. She's on my altar.
I was just thinking about that. It's so pretty.
Yes, I love that piece. That's like a timeless, I will have that for the rest of my life. So that was Egypt.
And then you flew out of Cairo.
Then we flew out of Cairo.
Which was so crazy.
Yeah, and the city of Cairo was crazy. It was like the craziest.
Yeah, you said people were like up at all hours of the night.
Oh yeah. So in Jordan and Egypt, specifically, we would be out at, like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Like, I remember we flew in to there, got to Egypt super late, and whenever we got there, it was basically like it would have been, 3 p.m. during the day here. Like, everybody was just out, and there were kids out, and families out, and people eating, and the shops were all open, literally at 2 a.m.
I wonder if it's because it's so hot during the day.
I think all of their time is kind of like pushed back a little bit in that way. So yeah, that was really crazy. And we also had like a wild bed bug experience. We didn't get bed bugs, thank God. But in one of the hostels that we stayed in Egypt, they were trying to rip us off and, like trying to charge us triple the price of what the price was that we had booked on Hostel World, which granted, the original price was like $3. So it was so cheap to get a place there. But
$3.
I know. And then I know, $3 a night. And so we were like, all right, we're going to stay one night and then we're leaving. And then we literally like barely sat on the bed for a second and there was a bed bug crawling on the bed. We hopped up so quick, went and got the hostel person. He came in and picked the bed bug off of the bed and like crushed it with his fingers and was like, it's just one. We were like, no. we need to get out of here. So we had to leave and it was like 1 a.m. and everybody was up and out and about though. And thankfully we did find a hotel that was way cleaner and just felt a lot better for us. And thankfully they were open and, able to accommodate us. But yeah, Egypt, Cairo was crazy city, very chaotic, cars everywhere, people honking, and you just kind of have to like run across the street, and just assert yourself. And you really have to be confident in cities like that and places like that. Otherwise it can swallow you whole. So that was the first section of my trip. And how are you feeling? Do you want to keep going?
Well, yeah, we're at 49 minutes. So
let's go.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep it going.
To Europe.
Okay, so then we flew to Europe. And I went to Greece first. And there we toured the different Athens ruins and went to Rome and got a lot of history there of the Greek gods and again, like all of this different art and culture and different, religions are just so cool to kind of piece it together how intricately woven humanity is. Also made me realize how America like barely has any history because we're just such a new nation. It's like all of these places have 1,000-year-old temples and, multi-100-year-old just different.
We have really deep history in the U.S., but it's all the Native Americans.
Exactly.
It's not the
settlers, the colonizers.
The colonization history is super young, but we do have like the ancient Native American history. But not so
even
much
with them, it's like there's not a whole lot of
like infrastructure
because they were such nomadic people.
Yeah, it's more like a natural sites like mountains, instead of like buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Except for like in like more like Mexico and Central America and South America, they have like their own pyramids and ruins and things. And
this could be in turn because of erased history over the years.
Yeah, that
as well.
too.
So,
but yeah, I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah,
there's definitely very ancient history.
Like going to Rome and seeing like the Rome ruins and the Roman Empire, learning about that. That's literally where the birth of capitalization happened. Like that's where capitalism was born was there. And, like, you got Daniel Caesar, who was, yeah. He was like super poor and then rose to power, became extremely rich, and became so rich and so powerful that they kind of voted a democracy to like have him killed. And everybody like respected him so much for it, but it was like, nah, you're too powerful. Like, we can't have like a dictator. Like, that was like their whole thing.
Is it respect or fear?
Well, they were fearful of him because of how powerful he got. So then they had him killed.
He had bad vibes, or?
I think he did kind of have bad vibes in the end because he was so powerful. Like,
yeah, it got to his head.
It got to his head. So he like rose from nothing and then became so powerful and was becoming a little too powerful. So the people voted like, we got to have him out of here. But they still have so much respect for him. He has all these monuments named after him, and he
probably paid to get those built after him.
I don't know, maybe. But they just like, he's like a legend.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've definitely heard about him a lot. I just don't know that much about him.
I know. I'm not given the best history lesson about him.
Athens is like, isn't it in tribute to Athena and their symbols like the olive tree?
Oh yeah, and there were olive trees all over Greece. And whenever we went to this island in Greece, which was Zapathos, I think was the name of the island we were on, there were tons of olive trees everywhere. Like, that is, you really see how this is like their main source of income as a country.
Is that like a huge export thing for them as well?
Totally, like olive oil, just olive oils, the olives. And yeah, the olive represents this branch of wisdom. Yeah, because Athena is like the goddess of wisdom. And yeah, there were tons of olive trees all around. And we went to that island and we toured this shipwreck with the bluest water you've ever seen in your life. And it's this real life shipwreck that's there. And it's the most photographed place in the world, which I didn't know that because
they say.
So they say. Who is they?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna insert a picture of it. It looks so beautiful, but I've never seen really like pictures of it like memorably before, and I'm like, how could that be? You would think like the pyramids of Giza would be one of the most photographed places in the world.
Yeah.
But that place looked so cool. And did you take a boat ride there?
We did. So we got like an up view of the shipwreck, and then we did a boat tour down into these caves of the island, and the most blue water ever. And then we got super close to the shipwreck, and I got to see it like up close. But you can't walk on the shore over there because I think it's privately owned or something.
Can you swim in the water?
I don't think
I wonder what makes it so blue.
I don't know what makes it so blue.
It's like a very deep blue.
Literally looks like paint.
Yeah.
Like such a cerulean blue, like the deepest. Oh, it's such a vibrant color too. It was gorgeous.
It's so pretty. I've been to a place that's like similarly like, it's like the most blue water in the world, but it was a very different shade of blue. It was like a very light, like milky turquoisey blue in Costa Rica. But it's cool because that is like a super deep blue. Is that that's the ocean though?
That is the ocean.
I went to a river.
Oh yeah, that was the Rio de Celeste.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Celestial River is beautiful.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a picture of that in here too.
Yeah, you should. Yes, so Greece was amazing. Then we went to Italy, and we did our thing in Italy. That was my second time going to Italy, and we went to Rome, Florence, Venice, did a tour of Tuscany, a wine tour, and got to see castles. And but there we had like a crazy experience with the rental car where we ended up getting a flat tire and had to go to a car dealership, and all of this happened. Anyway, we ended up getting it figured out, got another rental car, and then made our way over to the countryside of Italy, which was so beautiful and romantic. And also in Italy, we were eating a ton of food, like, of course.
Oh my God, I bet.
Pasta, pizza, tiramisu. We ended up eating, gnocchi. We ended up having fettuccine Alfredo at the place that invented fettuccine Alfredo.
What?
Yeah, it was called so Alfredo's. It was amazing. It was so good. Very cheesy. Just cheese and noodles, but the best cheese and noodles you've ever had.
Whoa.
So that was amazing.
That's crazy that they invented.
I know. That was like the origin place of it. So yeah, when we were in Europe, just the best food. I mean, this trip was kind of a foodie trip. We really were indulging in every experience that we could, obviously. Like, from everything I'm talking about, we were doing...
You went on so many tours.
All the tours, and all of the best restaurants, and I mean, we really splurged out on this trip in certain ways, and then in other ways, we were staying in hostels the entire time, the cheapest hostels we could find, where it would be just a room of bunk beds. And yeah, you're just kind of out in the open sharing rooms with all of these other backpackers. And yeah, just penny pinching where we could, but splurging where it counted. And then we went to Switzerland, which was my all-time favorite place that we went to.
Switzerland.
If I could live in Switzerland, I would. And maybe I will one day. But the cities were just utopian, it felt like the cleanest cities, so many bicycles everywhere. Everybody was just so kind, and the infrastructure was just beautiful. And that was on the city side. And then we ended up going to the mountains, the Swiss Alps. And we went to Jungfrau, which was the highest peak that you could get to, well, the highest peak in Europe that you get to via train. And yeah, we were doing the most gorgeous hikes. I went paragliding there, which was one of my favorite experiences of all time. Flying through the Swiss Alps, it felt a dream. And
she talks about wanting to paraglide more all the time.
Yes,
it got her hooked. I think we might go in Mexico.
Yeah, when we go to Mexico in a couple months, which I'm super excited about. We'll definitely be talking about that when the time comes. But yeah, that like made me have this whole epiphany of like my dream job would be to be like a paraglide instructor, which would take a lot of practice to get to that point, but maybe one day. And then Germany, we went to Oktoberfest, which was so funny. Yeah, hey, when in Germany, and we were there during Oktoberfest, and
is it the entire month long?
It is. It's a huge carnival, and that's where the beer is. And I mean, this is like the real deal, where they wear the lederhosen and the outfits.
Was it crazy up in there?
Oh, it was crazy up in there. It was crazy, but we had a good time. We did a couple rides, of course, and just walking around and enjoying the festival and eating food and drinking beer, and we ended up camping while we were there too.
Oh.
Yeah, we stayed in tents while we were there.
How'd you find that?
It was the cheapest way to go to Oktoberfest, and like the cheapest place to sleep.
Were you like on the Oktoberfest grounds?
We had to take a train to get to the Oktoberfest grounds.
But it was like Oktoberfest camping.
Yeah, it was Oktoberfest
Oh my God, it's like festival camping?
I know,
That's kind of crazy.
And it was so cold, while we were there. But yeah, there were tons of people our age that were there, all getting drunk. It was like a big party festival ground, campsite. Which was a lot of fun to witness. Just people all over the world coming together, you know.
It felt like beer.
It really felt like it's a festival.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's just a different type of festival,
Just
not a music. It's a beer festival.
They had music, I'm sure, though.
Not
they have
really.
Like German.
I mean, they had the traditional in the bars or in the pubs.
Yeah.
they had, they did have, you know, traditional, it was very traditional German dance and dress and
cool.
music. And
so was it like a big festival grounds and there was like lots of different pubs on the festival grounds?
Yes.
Were they like temporary built pubs or like permanent
I think
pubs?
they were permanent.
Okay.
They were pretty permanent. And they had their really cool like artwork, or, you know, these big spinning structures that would have like a character drinking a beer, or you know,
gosh,
like fun
so
things.
funny.
Like, yeah, it was funny.
What's like the like do you know like the history, like the meaning?
I think that the Germans just love beer.
Is it really?
But it's been happening for hundreds of years.
Deeper like purpose than just beer.
I think that what it was something happened where there was like war or famine or some deep dark part of their history, and they just wanted to like celebrate and like have something festive happen.
Okay.
And I think it was kind of a situation like that, where they were like
something deeper, leave a comment.
Please tell us. Please help us elaborate.
Our impression is beer.
Yeah. Beer Fest. That's what it is now. And even in Texas, we have Wurstfest, which is like...
We have like a knockoff Oktoberfest.
We do. But there's a lot of Germans in New Braunfels, so...
Yeah, there's a lot of German towns here in Texas. I think like a lot of families moved here from Germany and they all like wanted to like be in a community together. So there's like quite a few. What are some other ones? Is Fredericksburg?
Probably Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
New Braunfels.
Green.
Yeah,
there's
and
like,
those are all like really close together.
Yeah, there's definitely like some. So like in New Braunfels they have Wurstfest, which is basically a knockoff Oktoberfest. And I only went once, but like I like went with a frat and they got like a whole frat bus, you know, and then you like go like just get
sloshed. You get the whole pitcher of beer.
Yeah, the whole.
We had no business doing all that.
Everyone was wearing fake German costumes.
Yeah, I think I actually went harder at Wurstfest than I did at Oktoberfest. We literally only got like one beer while we were there. But
was the beer good?
It was good, yeah. It was just beer. I don't know. I'm not a beer drinker.
Yeah, we're not really like alcohol drinkers.
Yeah.
We got that out of us.
Yes.
In our early college years.
I know. So luckily we're not drinkers and we don't really like...
But that's cool you still went.
Yeah, you gotta get into it, you know. You go to Oktoberfest, you gotta get it.
And then she went to the opposite end of the substance spectrum by going straight to Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah. But hey, we didn't smoke any flower in Amsterdam, actually.
Yeah?
Are you talking about weed?
Well, I'm just talking about in general, like... It seems like there's a lot legal there.
There is. We went to the red light district in Amsterdam right after Germany. And that was crazy because you literally would walk by windows of women advertising themselves.
Oh.
And yeah, because prostitution is legal there.
Whoa.
And so there were houses where there would be big windows and women, you know, in their little lingeries dancing in front of the window, and you would see, you know, if someone came in to pay, they would close the curtain, and yeah, that's the red light district for you. So that was pretty wild to see.
Oh my gosh, I would be like admiring how cute they were, probably.
Yeah, well.
No. Oh.
I mean, some of them were cute, but others were very like
dark,
giving like seductress vibes.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like, oof.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. So we were only really in Amsterdam for like a night or 2 nights, I think. Oh, and bicycles. If you don't watch out, you're gonna get run over by a bicycle.
I've heard it's like intimidating, the bicycling there. Like,
it is. Oh, and the bicyclists will not, like, you yield to them. Like, and there's all these roads and different pathways for them.
Laura was just there, and she said that she got yelled at because she like didn't understand, like, because the roads are confusing, and she was biking, and like everyone was like, you don't even know where you're going, like.
Oh,
it seems like kind of a It's really cool that
it's
everyone
very
rides.
intense though.
Yeah, but it does sound intense.
Like the bikers take it very seriously. If you don't know what you're doing, they will call you out and
It's a bit
make you feel bad about it.
They're probably just so sick of the tourists.
Yeah. At this point,
Yeah.
Totally. But we went to the Van Gogh Museum because Van Gogh was from Amsterdam, and that was amazing. Like 10 out of 10, wonderful art exhibit. Van Gogh is my favorite artist, and so getting to see his art so personally and get to know who he was on a personal level, you really moved through the whole journey of his life. And he was a really disturbed person and really struggled with mental health. And you can see that reflected in his art and in his style. But he was an amazing artist and created so many masterpieces, and we got to see the iconic art pieces from him. So that was really, really cool.
Well, you know, oil paints, I've learned, like, especially the ones that they would use back then, really can be toxic, the fumes of the paints, and I don't think they knew maybe as much about that back then, but I feel like that could have been a factor of like what would like drive some of these artists mad, as they were like constantly inhaling toxic fumes.
He really struggled with a lot of illness. Like he had a lot of issues in his mouth. Like his mouth would cause him a lot of pain. He had a lot of mouth disease. He painted the iconic skeleton smoking a cigarette painting. We got to see that. And he did talk a lot about how he was constantly feeling ill and in pain and struggled from manic depression and from the toxic fumes as well. I think that definitely attributed to his overall mental state. But it's also really inspiring to see that sometimes the people who are going through it or in the darkest times are the most brilliant creators.
Expressing through art.
And you really saw the depth of, I just love when art tells a story like that and you can really feel the emotion behind the painting. So it was really cool to get to know him on a personal level. And I feel like when we analyze the poetry of history and the art within history, it gives us that deeper understanding of the emotion that was happening during that time. So that was really, really cool. I was in Brussels for like a day, literally a day.
Almost got kidnapped.
Don't have
to go into that.
We'll just hop right out of that.
Be careful.
Just be careful out there, you know, especially in big cities, any big city, you gotta be on your guard, and it's not all gonna be rainbows and easy and just seamless. I mean, you really have to be watching your back. And luckily we realized that, there's a man in the bushes right now. and
some other men going into the bushes.
And some other men who, after we left, also going into the bushes. And we were like, oh, lovely. Wonder what they were plotting. But anyways, and then last but not least, the place that we went to last was France. And France was amazing. We got to see Paris. We got to really explore the city of France and city of Paris, and went to the Eiffel Tower, went to the top of the Eiffel Tower, saw the whole view of Paris from up there, ate food in Paris, and just had our whole Paris moment, tried to hit up all of the iconic landmarks in Paris that we could. We also got to go tour the catacombs under Paris, which is millions of human bones and skeletons all lined up in very intentional, intricate ways, lining these.
I'm gonna put a picture of that here.
And it was literally like entering the underworld, which was another really spiritual experience for me, because
I wonder what's hidden in those.
Oh yeah, because we're only
passages.
shown like one little tiny section, but those catacombs go on for miles.
Yeah, don't they like go
miles.
under the entire city?
All under the city. So it's so crazy that the whole city is on top of all of these bones. And the reason that all of the bones are there in the first place is because many, many years ago, there was a huge plague that happened in Paris and killed a bunch of people, like millions of people. And they had nowhere to put all their bodies, so they just threw them all in a hole, basically. And then many years later, when they were rediscovered, this man had this brilliant idea of like, these need to be honored, or we need to do something with this. And that's when the catacombs were born. And he created all of these really intricate pathways under the city. So crazy.
I think it's so cool to go and make a video about that.
Oh, yes.
That sounds like a really interesting experience.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And then ended it in Biarritz, south of France, where we enjoyed our time on the beach and went to a French wedding, which was so cute and so much fun to bear witness to. And then
she came home.
Well,
so I think we're gonna save the whole story for our next episode.
Yeah.
But to give a preface to get you excited, I found a Facebook post. These people were looking for a nanny on a sailboat in French Polynesia. And I go in the comments, at Libby.
She added me because she couldn't go at the time, but
unfortunately. But
I was like, what am I gonna do after this trip? I had no plan. I had no idea where I was gonna go, where I was gonna live, what was coming next. And Aya came through, tagged me in that post, and I full sent it. I applied, I interviewed with the family, and then got the job. And 2 days, or I think it was maybe 4 days total. Flew back from Europe, was home for 4 days or however long, then immediately flew to San Francisco, met up with the family, and then from there, we flew to French Polynesia, where I lived full-time on a sailboat, working as a live-in nanny. I think I told all of that.
We're gonna do a whole episode where she dives into this experience of 3 months living on a sailboat in crystal clear, beautiful water.
French Polynesia has my heart.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if you are interested, look forward to that episode coming up soon.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. This has been so much fun deep diving into my trip and just, 1 year later kind of reflecting on everywhere that I went and all of the things that I did and that I experienced. And I mean, there's so many little tiny details in there that
you could talk for hours.
I could talk for hours about it, but even being able to just reflect back on it, it really was such a special trip, and I'm so grateful for it and grateful to be back here to reground because we have big trips coming.
We have big plans.
Big plans
this
coming.
is inspiring and motivating for what we have coming up, because who knows how it will unfold. You thought you were going to be gone for about 2 months in Costa Rica, and next thing you know, 8 months later, you have literally been traveling full time.
Yes. And coming back, I got back here in February, and so now we're in August, so it's already been like 6 months at this point of being back. And
we're about to start booking flights.
And we're about to start booking flights again. So I'm just so stoked to be continuing this journey and to have this adventurous heart and to be connected with sisters that also have adventurous hearts.
Yes, we're going with our other friend Grace, who is in different episodes, who was in the last episode that I just posted.
We're all going to be traveling together, making videos together, making podcasts while we're abroad. So stay tuned for all of those exciting adventures because we got big plans coming.
So yeah, in the comments, please let us know if you have any questions or have anything that you would like us to dive deeper into, or if you've been to any of these places that she talked about, and just whatever you're thinking.
I would love to hear your input. Yeah, if you've been to any of these places, I'd love to answer any questions. This was kind of just a story time episode, just me kind of sharing all of the places that I've been. But we would love to come back with another episode giving our travel tips, our travel advice, how we travel like this on a budget, and
On
just
a big budget.
On a big budget.
On a serious budget. It's not a big budget.
Yeah.
It's a little budget, but like we're paying attention to.
We're big budgeters.
We're big on the budget.
Big on the budget.
We're big on focusing on our budget.
Yes. If you want to know how to do that, I'll make an episode for you. But thank you so much for tuning in and hearing me talk for this long, and I hope you have a beautiful day. We're so grateful. We love you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe and
Follow our Spotify.
follow up if you are interested in watching. My most recent episode was with Grace, and we talked about a grandfather fire ceremony that we did in Costa Rica at the retreat space that Libby mentioned today. So go check that out, and thank you.
We're at the Dancing Devis. Find us on Instagram. Bye.